Hello, Year 7, and welcome to your first guided PowerPoint with me, Miss Markwell. Please, could you get some pen and paper at the ready? You can even use your laptop if you want to type up some notes. Now, for some of you, Year 7, that have already had your food rotation, some of this stuff will be familiar to you, but there is absolutely no harm in recapping. So for the first part of today's online lesson, we're going to be looking at the Eat Well guide. So the first thing I want you to do is to write down the driving question, and it is this: what is meant by a healthy diet? So pause the video here and jot this down. Okay, I want you to think about what a healthy diet really means. So we're going to do a think, pair, share activity. So just below your driving question, I want you to draw a mind map, and I want you to put the words healthy diet in the centre. I then want you to think for about 30 seconds, and I want you to write down 4 things that you know about healthy diets. Then you're going to ask someone else in your family to do the exact same thing, and you're going to pair your ideas up, and you can write your shared ideas down. So please write the words healthy diet in the centre of a mind map. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Let me just get my timer ready to write down 4 things starting from now. So what 4 things could you write down about a healthy diet? Could it be some advice that you know? Could it be some types of foods? Could it be some types of diets? You're halfway. 25 seconds have just passed. And stop. Okay, hopefully you've got some pieces of information in front of you. Now it's time to pair up with somebody else. It might be someone near you. And just ask them, what do you think about when it comes to a healthy diet? And you should share your ideas and write down these shared ideas onto that mind map. So you might want to pause the video here to carry out that activity. Okay, we're looking at this word here. If you have a look at the top, dietary guidelines. That's a really important keyword. And what is a dietary guideline? Well, a dietary guideline is a piece of advice that the government produces, and it really tells us what we should be eating on a daily basis. Now, there's 2 types of dietary guidelines. They are the Eat Well Guide and the 8 Tips for Healthy Eating. So we're looking at the Eat Well Guide to start with. Now, a few years ago, we used to have the Eat Well plate, and that's what I would have been teaching you about. However, very recently, the government decided to update it and make it the Eat Well Guide, and you will see some distinct differences, okay? For example, the Eat Well plate has far less pieces of information on it than the Eat Well Guide now currently does. If you have a look, our Eat Well Guide gives us information on food packaging. It gives us information about our high fat and sugary foods, which are now outside of the plate. It talks about calories down here. It gives us information on the amount of fluid we should be consuming. It gives us tips around the outside for each of the 5 individual food groups. And we're going to watch a few videos to just explain the Eat Well Guide in a bit more detail. So this is it closer up. You'll notice that there are 5 main food groups that we should be getting our food from. Now, these food groups shouldn't make up an individual meal. It should make up our entire day's consumption of food and fluids. You've obviously got the biggest section, which is fruit and vegetables, and we all know that we should be consuming 5 portions of fruit and veg every day. We've got our second biggest section, which is our potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates. And we know that we should be choosing whole grain versions because they are higher in carbohydrates and higher in fibre. We then have got our third biggest section, which is our beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. And we've got our fourth biggest section, which is dairy and alternatives. And then we've got a really small purple section, which is oils and spreads. So I want you to have a little watch of this video, and you might want to jot down any key points that you pick up on, and this is going to explain the Eat Well Guide really nicely.
The Eat Well Guide makes healthy eating easier to understand by giving you an image of the types of food and drink you need and the proportions you need for a healthy and well-balanced diet. The guide applies to most of us, whether we are healthy weight or overweight, whether we eat meat or are vegetarian, and no matter what ethnic origin. The Eat Well Guide divides food and drink into 5 main food groups. These are fruit and vegetables, potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy foods known as carbohydrates, beans, pulses, fish, egg, meat, and other proteins, dairy and alternatives like milk, cheese, and yogurt, and oils and spreads such as rapeseed oil or olive oil. Try to choose a variety of foods from each of the groups to help you get the wide range of nutrients your body needs to stay healthy and work properly. While it is important to include some fat in your diet, foods that are high in fat, salt, and sugar are placed outside the guide as they are not essential. Many of the foods we eat, such as pizza, casserole, lasagna, and sandwiches, contain ingredients from more than one of the food groups. So work out the main ingredients in the dish and fit those into the sections on the guide. For example, if you're eating a cottage pie, the potato, milk, and spread in the mashed potato fits into the yellow, blue, and purple segments. The meat or meat substitute would fall into the pink segment, and the vegetables would fit into the green segment. If you have special dietary requirements or medical needs, you might want to check with a GP or dietitian on how to adjust this guide to meet your needs. So there you have it, the FSA explains the Eat Well Guide. Find out more at food.gov.uk.
So if you want to find out more information, you know where to go to. And I think that video highlights some really good key tips that you could have written down there, year 7. Now, we have got the British Nutrition Foundation who have also given us a little brief update on the Eat Well Guide as well. So again, get your pens at the ready and jot down some really beneficial notes from this little video.
What is the Eat Well Guide? The Eat Well Guide is a tool used to define the government's advice on a healthy, balanced diet. It shows the proportions in which different groups of foods are needed in order to have a well-balanced and healthy diet. The Eat Well Guide does not necessarily represent the balance required at each meal. Rather, it represents the overall balance of a healthy diet over the day or longer. The Eat Well Guide is suitable for most people, but it does not apply to children under 2 years of age, or for some people with special dietary needs or medical conditions. Children from the age of 2 to 5 should gradually move to eating foods in the proportion shown on the Eat Well Guide. It is important to choose a variety of different foods from each food group to help get a wide range of nutrients the body needs to stay healthy. What are the key messages? Eat at least 5 portions of a variety of fruit and vegetables every day. Base our meals on potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, or other starchy foods, using higher fibre or whole grain versions where possible. Have some dairy or calcium fortified dairy alternatives, such as soy drinks, using lower fat and lower sugar options. Eat some beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins, including 2 portions of sustainably sourced fish every week, one of which should be oily. Use unsaturated oils and spreads and eat in small amounts. Drink 6 to 8 cups or glasses of fluid a day, choosing lower sugar options. If foods high in fat, salt, and/or sugars are included in the diet, they should be consumed less often and in small amounts. We can use food labels to help us choose foods lower in fat, salt, and sugars when shopping. Where colour-coded labels are used, pick products with more green and amber and fewer reds. So remember, the Eat Well Guide describes the different types of foods and drinks we should consume, and in what proportions to have a healthy, balanced diet.
Okay, so another really useful video there to give us a little bit more specific information on the Eat Well Guide. So I hope now you've gathered quite a clear understanding of the different food groups, the pieces of advice each of the food groups give, and the elements outside of the actual circle of the Eat Well Guide itself. Now, there's this little game which is quite good if you can find the website and you can have a little go. The game is based around, can you place the foods into the correct group? So if you click, obviously you can't click the link, but I can show you what it looks like. You should enter, if you go to fsseatwellguide.scot, it is the Food Standards Scotland. However, it has this fun little game. You'll obviously hit get started. And what is this? We don't want that. Ignore that, year 7. If then when you get in here, you'll see the foods down the right-hand side. So we've got mushrooms, for example. I know they go in the fruit and vegetable category. So you'll pop them in. We've got some, is that soft cheese? So I know that goes in the dairy and alternatives category. And if you can't remember what the groups are called and what colours they are, if you have a look at the bottom here, you can see them here. We've got some apples. I know they go into fruit and veg, and you'll be able to play this game until it is finished. So have a little look at that. You might want to pause the video now and go and have a go. Now, just to recap our knowledge, I want you to have a look at this and tell me which is the odd one out of these foods and why. Hopefully you've worked out that is the ice cream, because all of the other 4 foods are from the bread, rice, potatoes, pasta and other starchy carbohydrates food group on the Eat Well guide. Oh, what's the odd one out here? Okay, hopefully you've worked out that it's actually the cheese, okay, because the fish, the mince, the tuna and the chickpeas, they are all from that protein group, okay, whereas the cheese is from the dairy group on the Eat Well guide. What's our odd one out here? Okay, hopefully you've worked out it's the vegetable oil. It falls into the oils and spreads group, whereas our strawberries, our broccoli, our apples and our chopped tomatoes are all from the fruit and vegetables group on the Eat Well guide. Now, I spoke earlier on about government guidelines and the fact that word government guidelines are dietary guidelines. They are guidelines obviously produced by the government to tell us what to eat. Now, there's 2 that I mentioned. We've looked at the Eat Well guide, which is the first government guideline, and the second government guideline is the 8 tips for healthy eating. And we're going to watch a little video now which is going to explain the 8 tips for healthy eating. Now, you don't need to jot any notes down because I will have a task linked to the Eat Well guide in just a minute.
GCSE Food Preparation and Nutrition. Healthy eating. In this episode, you will learn the 8 guidelines for a healthy diet. Eating healthily means eating a balanced diet. That's eating a variety of foods to get all the nutrients in the right proportions and quantities to be healthy. Follow these 8 guidelines for a healthy diet. Number 1. Base your meals on starchy foods like these. Number 2. Eat lots of fruit and vegetables. Choose a variety to get different combinations of vitamins and minerals. Don't stick to green either. Aim to eat a rainbow of colours. The more the better. Remember, canned, fresh and frozen, all count. Number 3. Eat more fish. Aim to eat 2 portions per week, one of which should be oily fish like salmon or mackerel. That's a good source of omega-3 fatty acid and fat-soluble vitamin D for bone health. For those who don't eat fish, you can get omega-3 from linseeds and linseed oil, also rapeseed oil, walnuts and soya-based foods like tofu. Number 4. Cut down on saturated fats and sugar. But we do need some fat in our diet to provide essential fatty acids and absorption of fat-soluble vitamin A, D, E and K. Having said that, eating too much fat and sugar can lead to weight gain. Number 5. Try to eat less salt. No more than 6 grams per day for adults. Children, much less. Eating too much salt can cause high blood pressure and an increased risk of developing heart disease and strokes. Number 6. Get active and try to be a healthy weight. Government recommendations for 19 to 64-year-olds are 150 minutes of brisk walking or cycling, or 75 minutes of high-intensity physical activity, such as running or swimming, every week. It's also recommended that you do some muscle strengthening exercise like weightlifting or carrying heavy weights on at least 2 days a week. Number 7. Drink plenty of water. Drink 1.6 to 2.5 litres every day. Finally, number 8. Don't skip breakfast, the most important meal of the day. A healthy breakfast featuring things like whole grain cereals, muesli, porridge, fruit, and wholemeal toast will provide fibre, vitamins, and minerals, as well as keeping you satisfied until lunch. So now you should know the 8 guidelines for a healthy diet.
There we go. So those are the 8 tips for healthy eating. So this is what I want you to do, okay? I want you to carry out research on what the 8 tips for healthy eating are. So you might create an 8 tips poster. You might just write them down in your book. And I want you to jot down some ideas of how you can include them in your diet. So for example, Eat Well Guide number 1, base your meals in starchy food. I might put my example and I might say, create a dinner time meal that uses pasta, for example, spaghetti bolognese. So I want you to write the 8 tip and give me an example of how you could include it in the diet. So pause the video here and get on with that, please. And then finally, we're going to do another think, pair, share. Very similar to the first one. Once again, you're going to put the word healthy eating into the center of a little mind map. And this time, I want you to think about 4 reasons why it's important to follow the Eat Well guide and the 8 tips for healthy eating. You can then pose this question to a family member and pair up your ideas and then write down your shared ideas. So think about, why do you think it's important to follow these government dietary guidelines? Could there be any consequences if we didn't follow them? Have a little think. So I want you to put the words healthy eating into the mind map. I'm going to give you 40 seconds this time, and I will tell you when to start and stop. So I'm going to set my timer now, and we are going to go, year 7. So think about, why is it important? What could the consequences to our health be if we didn't follow them? Halfway. 10 seconds left. And stop. All right, now is time to go and pair up with someone, ask them the same question, and gather together your ideas. So you might want to pause the video here whilst you go and do that. Okay, year 7, and that sums up our learning for this week. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please go back on to show my homework now and complete the quiz that is there. And also I have put up a culinary challenge, so please take part in that and send me any pictures of it. All right, thank you, goodbye.